Hello, I am here to give you a quick introductory video on the first release of EdgeSense, which is a black box AI research project at the moment. What I'm looking to do today is to give you a quick overview of the functionality, the features that are in there, how you could possibly use it, and kind of what the use case is for EdgeSense as an application. First off, it's a native macOS desktop app that basically tries to bring together local AI models run through Ollama, remote models through LLM APIs, and actually Internet of Things devices. So typically Linux, Arduinos, Orin Nanos from NVIDIA, and tries to pull all of those things into a single unified interface to try and help set up, try to ease operation of some of those tools, and actually make them more useful for either day-to-day operations or prototype projects that you're working on. The kind of basic principle with EdgeSense is that everything is trying to be run from your local device. So you can use a local LLM running with local edge devices, all within your control. So what I'll do is I'll give a quick introduction to the product itself, and I'll just take you first to the kind of chat interface that we have. And this is very typical of what you'd see from an LLM chat interface that we're probably used to. You've got your chat history, you've got your models, local and remote, that you can configure. And then in the slightly more unique to EdgeSense is we have different context options around tooling, apps, and actually sensor data is the main thing. So you can stream sensor data into your context window. If you go onto the models page, you can see locally installed models that you've got, all hosted by Ollama. And you can see here, you can open up the config page, see where those models have been installed, what stage they are, and kind of select them if you want to. You can also pull models from Ollama, obviously by just putting the prefix and for the correct model that you want. The next thing you can do is obviously configure remote models. There's support in there for OpenAI, Anthropic, and Google using your API keys. Within those menus, you can select the models that you want to be available within your interface. Obviously, there's a lot, so you want the ones that are specific to you. At the bottom as well of this page, you have an available for download option, so you can see all the latest models available that you could run locally. So, connecting devices. If you go onto the sensors page, you can open up and see that we have our sensor server running. It's running by default. It's a WebSocket server, nothing too complicated, which can be started and stopped. There's a device guide that if you open up, you can see setup guides for Linux and Arduino. These are quite clever, and they automatically update with based on your device IP address and obviously the local directory you're going to be installing to, so you can copy and paste the commands easily. There's also a link to the client files as well. So if we start that server, you'll hopefully see some of our devices starting to appear. We have a Raspberry Pi and an Orin Nano. That's them connected there, noted in green. And we can actually start recording the data that's coming back from those straight away. So you can see there's a number of readings starting to come in. You can stop that recording. You can save those logs, delete them, export them as CSVs, and so on. If you open up one of the devices that is connected, you can see the IP address, the version of the client software it's running, and the sensor readers that are being streamed in. You can then go and configure those devices and sensors. You can add them, and there is a library of supported drivers by EdgeSense, which we'll add to over time. But it gives you, basically, we can add the typical kind of sensors you'd use for those kind of projects at the moment. You can then remotely save that and push the config to the client, which will give you an indication if it's saved successfully. So a lot of information. How do we visualize it? Well, there's a right-hand panel that is the network view. And you can see here your local connections. So application connections are in blue, and you've got your local LAN connections in orange. And as the data comes in and out across the network, you can see the kind of pulsating and dotted indications on the lines between those individual parts. You can then also remotely execute tools. So you can see we've clicked on one there to trigger a GPIO pin on the Raspberry Pi, and we've got a successful indication of that tool being executed. So how do you actually create those tools? Well, back to the LLM menu, you can then look at the device control and click on that tooling option at the bottom. Ask it to create a tool that triggers a certain pin on your board, and EdgeSense will immediately detect that you've done that, and they take the code block that you can inspect, and then actually run it and execute it on the Raspberry Pi. You can see we've had an successful execution, so we can now add that, rename it, and add it as a tool to our tools menu going forward. So we've always got it available to use, and it's easier to run in the future. Creating apps, so actually visualizing the data coming in. So again, same as tools, we go to the apps section of the chat window, and we can create an app, and we just request what we want. EdgeSense auto detects that you wanted to create an app, and the LLM's responding that way. and you can open a browser. Now, all the context for how to create an app in relation to EdgeSense in your devices is provided when you hit that app context button. That has now been connected. You can see an indication on the apps page, and you can see an example here of one that was created as we just spoke there. And you can see you can select the data, you can add your API key for security, you can see the sensor data coming in live, and it responds on the dashboard. Within EdgeSense, we've got quite an extensive settings menu. For all of this functionality you can customize to kind of your preferences, including LLM configs and how you want your models to be set up. We have an MCP integration server with a number of tools that can be called by any application you want to interact with EdgeSense. And obviously you've got device control and a bit about the product. But that is EdgeSense version 1.